learn with joy.
Hi, hello champions. Good morning. Today in this video, I am going to discuss the concept called as the cost accounting system, which is also called as the cost ledger accounting. This is the only chapter in which we are going to study how to pass the journal entries in the cost books. Without wasting the time, let me start with the topic called as the cost ledger accounting or cost accounting system. First of all, is it required that all the companies has to maintain the cost books? The answer is no. According to section 148 of Companies Act, very few companies or specified companies has to maintain the cost books. When the company wants to maintain the cost books, especially cost books, there are two ways. One is integrated system, another is non-integrated system. In case of non-integrated system, the companies which need to maintain the cost books, they maintain separate set for the cost books and separate set for the financial books. This is called non-integrated system. In case of integrated system, the company will combine the books. They will combine both integrated and non-integrated, which is called as integrated system. Are you understanding? Look at here. As per section 148 of Companies Act 2013, specified company has to maintain the cost books. They can maintain two systems, integrated system, non-integrated system. In case of non-integrated system, two sets will be maintained, separate set of books will be maintained. In case of integrated system, same set will be maintained. Clear? Next. If company follows non-integrated system, it should prepare the additional statement. See, please understand, when the company follow non-integrated system, they will be maintaining two sets. One is cost books and one more thing is financial books. According to cost books, they'll get the cost profit. According to financial books, they'll get the financial profit. In non-integrated system, there will be difference in the profit. There will be difference in the profit. That difference in profit we need to reconcile. That means in non-integrated system, we are going to prepare one additional statement called as the reconciliation statement. In case of integrated system, we are not going to prepare the reconciliation statement because we will be reporting only one profit under integrated system. Clear? And cost books will be audited by the cost auditor. All of you clear till now? Now, out of non-integrated, integrated, we are going to start with the non-integrated system and we are going to discuss only about the cost books. When it comes to non-integrated system, specifically we need to prepare 11 ledger accounts. We need to prepare the 11 ledger accounts. What are the 11 ledger accounts? Let me discuss that. Please understand here. When it comes to manufacturing company, three types of stocks are possible: raw material, work in progress, finished goods. For these three types of stocks, we are going to have three different ledgers. Raw material, stores ledger control account. Work in progress control account. Finished goods control account. Look at here. Stores ledger control account, work in progress control account, finished goods control account. After the raw material, after the stock, we are going to have the wages. So, to the wages, we are going to have the wages control account. After considering the wages, we need to consider the overheads. There are three different types of overheads: production overheads, administration overheads, selling and distribution overheads. For all these three things, we are going to have separate ledgers, that is production overhead account, administration overhead account, selling and distribution overhead account. And to account the loss, we have the separate ledger which is called the abnormal loss account. And now, it is the time to accumulate all the cost elements. Material, labor, overheads, everything has to be accumulated. For accumulation, we have the separate ledger called the cost of sales account. To calculate the profit or loss, costing profit or loss, we are going to have the ledger called the costing profit and loss account. Finally, we are preparing one dummy account which is called the general ledger adjustment account. It is a dummy account. Why I am using the word dummy? Please understand. In cost books, we are not going to have the investing and financing activities. We are not going to consider the balance sheet items in the cost books. When I want to pass the entry for the purchase of raw material, in financial books we write purchase account debit to cash. In cost books, we are going to write SLC account. In place of purchases, I am going to write the SLC. SLC is the account which replicates the raw material. SLC account debit 2. SLC account debit 2. In place of cash, I am going to use the dummy account called the general ledger adjustment account or cost ledger control account. It is a dummy account. Wherever we want to, we are not able to see. Simply I can tell you, if you are not able to fit into the above 10 ledger accounts, we are going to use the general ledger adjustment account. As how we'll use the journal proper in the subsidiary books. I hope you would have come across the journal proper in the subsidiary books. Same way, general ledger adjustment account. If you are not able to fit into the above 10 ledger accounts, we are going to fit to the general ledger adjustment account, which is also called the cost ledger control account. All of you clear about this? See, all the 11 ledger accounts has its own purpose. First 3 ledger accounts states the different types of stocks. Raw material, work in progress, finished goods, which is called a stores ledger control account, which replicates the raw material. Work in progress control account, and then finished goods control account. And then wages control account, and then 3 different types of overheads: production overheads, administration overheads, selling and distribution overheads. It is very simple and easy to remember these 7 ledger accounts. After this, one more ledger account for the loss, abnormal loss account. And then to accumulate all these things, we prepare the account called the cost of sales. Cost of sales is the total cost. We will prepare the ledger called the cost of sales account. And then to calculate the profit or loss, we prepare costing P&L account. At last, we will use the dummy account dummy account. If you are not able to fit into about 10 ledger accounts, we are going to use the dummy account called the general ledger adjustment account or cost ledger control account. Let us see the entries now. These are the different ledger accounts. These are the different ledger accounts under cost books. Now it's time to understand what are the different journal entries that we need to pass. Please understand, we are going to pass 4 different types of ledgers. 4 different types of entries. The journal entries were broadly classified into 4 categories: entries related to material, entries related to labor, entries related to overheads, and then closing entries. These are the 4 types of entries. Let me start with the raw material. Look at this. General entries in non-integrated system, entries related to material. Okay, now look at this. There is a supplier. I hope you know the person. By looking at the image, you know the person. Okay, there is a supplier. From the supplier, we are going to purchase the raw material and we will keep it in the storeroom. The storeroom is we are going to denote with the SLG account, stores ledger control account. From the storeroom, we'll issue it for the production to the factory. We'll be issuing it to the factory. In factory, we are going to have the work in progress. That is the place where the raw material will be converted into finished goods. Once the finished goods get completed, we are going to transfer it to the finished goods account, which is called as the godown. Have you understand this? Now, when I'm telling you the transaction, I'm going to tell you the transaction. You just give a thought to the mind, which account to be debited and which account to be credited. Please be careful. We have to use only 11 ledger accounts. When we are passing the entry, we have to use the 11 ledger accounts: store ledger control account, work in progress control account, finished goods control account, wages control account, production overhead control account, administration overhead control account, selling and distribution overhead control account, abnormal loss account, cost of sales account, costing P&L account, general ledger adjustment account. These 11 ledger accounts has to be used. First, purchase of raw material. When we purchase the raw material, what is the entry that we can pass? We are getting the raw material. So SLC account, stores ledger control account, because the raw material will be going to the storeroom. Storeroom is denoted by SLC. Debit the receiver. SLC account debit. 2. See, if it is cash purchase, we need to write 2 cash. If it is credit purchase, we need to write 2 creditors. But both the accounts is not there with us. We are going to replace the general ledger adjustment account. Stores ledger control account debit to general ledger adjustment account. Second, issue of raw material for the production. Issue of raw material for the production from storeroom to the factory. Which account to be debited? Work in progress control account. Credit, stores ledger control account. Look at here. Let me reveal one by one. This is the first entry. SLC account debit to GLA account. Second entry, issue of raw material for the production. Work in progress control account debit to SLC account. Return of raw material from factory to the stores. Why they are going to return? If the raw material is not according to the specification, or if the raw material get damaged, they'll return from factory to the storeroom. What is the entry? SLC account debit to work in progress account. SLC account debit to work in progress account. Fourth one, return of raw material to the supplier. When you are returning raw material to the supplier, what is the entry that we can pass? GLA account debit to SLC account. GLA account debit to SLC account. These are the four entries that initially we passed. Now, abnormal loss. What is the entry for abnormal loss? Okay, abnormal loss of raw material. What is the entry that we can pass? Abnormal loss account debit to SLC account. Abnormal loss account debit to SLC account. Now, issue of indirect material. Issue of material for repairs and maintenance. Listen to me carefully. I am discussing the sixth one. Issue of material. Issue of indirect material or issue of material for the repairs and maintenance. Indirect material. The moment I say indirect material, it is nothing but production overhead. Which account to be debited? Production overhead account debit to SLC account. From storeroom we are issuing, so that we are creating the SLC account. Look at this entry. It is not there. I am writing that. I am writing that entry. Issue of indirect material from store to factory. The entry is production overhead account debit. Production overhead account debit to SLC account. Production overhead account debit to SLC account. Next, completion of goods. When the goods get completed, we are going to sending it to the godown. Godown it will be finished goods. When the goods get completed, finished goods account debit to work in progress account. Finished goods account debit to work in progress account. At last, material purchased for the special job. At last, material purchased for the special job. What is the entry? When the material, listen to me carefully. When the material is purchased for the special job, instead of taking the raw material to the storeroom, directly they'll take it to the factory. Here I took the example. As the example I am showing here, I took the example car manufacturing company. Generally, when it comes to cars, it will be having cushion chairs. There is one specific customer who wants the plastic chairs in the car. The company is not going to produce the plastic chairs. Then what they'll do? They'll purchase the plastic chairs from the outside, and the plastic chairs will directly go to the factory. It will not go to the storeroom. It is a general understanding. When you purchase the material for the special job, customer specific order, such material will directly go to the factory. It will not go to the storeroom. If it go to the factory, which account to be debited? WIP account. WIP account debit to GLA account. WIP account debit to GLA account. These are the entries related to material. All of you clear about this? Now, it is the time to understand entries related to wages. Look at here. When it comes to wages, very simple, only two entries. Payment entry, utilization entry. What is the payment entry means? Wages control account debit to GLA account. Wages control account debit to CLC account. Then we need to pass the utilization entry. Why? Because here, when I say wages, it will be having direct wages as well as indirect wages. It will be having both direct wages and indirect wages. So combinedly, we are passing the payment entry, wages control account debit to CLC account. When it comes to utilization, we need to see to whom we are making the payment of the wages. If you are making payment to the direct workers, listen. If you are making payment to the direct workers, where the workers are working in factory denoted by which account? WIP account. When you are making payment to the direct workers are working in the factory. When the workers are working in the factory, it will be debited to the WIP account. So, work in progress control account debit, whatever the payment made to the direct wages. Indirect wages. The moment I say indirect wages, overheads. What overhead? Production overheads. Indirect wages will be debited to production overhead control account. Next, when it comes to admin staff, administration overhead control account. Selling and distribution staff, selling and distribution overhead control account. Idle time, we are going to treat as abnormal loss. Idle time, we are going to treat as abnormal loss account. We are going to treat as loss and we will transfer it to the abnormal loss account. Finally, we will write two wages control account. Initially we debited the wages control account. At the time of utilization, we will credit the wages control account. All of you clear about this? By passing these two entries, wages control account will get tally. Why it will get tally? Initially we debited, now we are creating, automatically debit will be equal to credit. Clear on the wages? Now, Let's come to the entries related to overhead. Please understand, in non-integrated system, entries we are classifying into 4 categories: entries related to material, entries related to labor, entries related to overheads, and closer entries. Now let us understand entries related to overheads. 3 types of overheads: production overhead, administration overhead, selling and distribution overhead. Production overhead, incurrence of the production overhead. What is the entry? Production overhead control account debit to CLC account. Production overhead control account debit to CLC account. Absorption. Please understand, production overheads will be absorbed to work in progress. Understand the logic here. Sir, why we need to debit to work in progress? There is a reason for that. Because if you look at the cost sheet, we'll take direct material, direct wages, direct expense, we'll get the prime cost, add production overhead, we'll get gross work cost. Using the gross work cost, we're going to evaluate the work in progress. Once we get the gross work cost, add opening WIP less closing WIP. What is the meaning of that? Using the gross work cost, we are going to evaluate the work in progress. Are you understanding? That means production overheads will form part of the work in progress. So that we are debiting to the work in progress account. Work in progress account debit to production overhead account. Clear. Next, second, administration overhead. What is the incurrence entry for administration overhead? Administration overhead control account debit to CLC account. Administration overhead control account debit to CLC account. When it comes to administration overhead, 2 types possible: administration overhead related to production, administration overhead related to general. Related to production, look at the cost sheet again. Let's go by the cost sheet. Administration overhead related to production, it is considered for the valuation of the finished goods. It will be considered for the valuation of the finished goods. So, administration overhead related to production should be transferred to finished goods. Finished goods account debit to administration overhead. Administration overhead general, it will not be considered for stock valuation. General expense will not be considered for stock valuation. It will be added to the cost of sales. It will be considered along with the cost of sales. So debit the cost of sales. Look at here. Related to production. If it is related to production, debit the finished goods account. If it is general, debit the cost of sales account. Cost of sales to administration overhead. At last, selling and distribution overhead. Incurrence entry, selling and distribution overhead account debit to CLC account. Absorption entry, selling and distribution overheads will be added to cost of sales. So cost of sales account debit to selling and distribution overhead account. So this is the incurrence entry, absorption entry. Listen to me carefully. Production overheads incurred is 10,000 rupees. Absorbed is 9,000 rupees. Incurred is 10,000, whereas absorbed is 9,000. There is the under absorption. Under absorption is also called as the under accounted in cost books. I already told you, this under absorption, over absorption is there only in cost books. It will not be there in the financial books. Actual amount incurred is 10,000 rupees, but cost is under accounted in the cost is under accounted. That is 1,000 rupees has been under accounted. If it is under accounted, now we need to account that. If you account that cost, listen. 10,000 rupees to be accounted, but accounted only 9,000. When you account the less cost, profit is showing more. Now, due to this, we are accounting less cost. Now, what we are going to do? We are going to account the whatever the unaccounted cost. In this example, how much is the unaccounted cost? 1,000 rupees. The 1,000 rupees will be accounted. If you account that, cost is going to be increased, profit is going to be decreased. So now P&L has to be debited or credited. If you want to decrease the profit, debit the cost in P&L account. So I'm debiting the cost in P&L account. Look at here. When there is an under absorption, debit the cost in P&L account. 2. Under absorption of production overhead means 2 production overhead. Under absorption of administration overhead means 2 administration overhead. Under absorption of selling and distribution overhead means 2 selling and distribution overhead. Are you understanding? Let me take one more scenario. See here, selling and distribution overheads is 12,000 rupees, but absorption is 15,000 rupees. Over absorption, over accounting of the cost. If you over account the cost by 3,000 rupees, now we need to remove that. If you remove that, cost is going to be decreased. If the cost decreases, profit increases. If you want to increase the profit, credit the cost and P&L account. So here I am crediting the cost and P&L account. Debit respect to overhead. If it is production overhead, debit production overhead. If it is administration overhead, debit administration overhead. In our example, it is selling and distribution overhead. Debit the selling and distribution overhead. These are the entries related to overheads. Are you clear? Okay, now let us start with the closing entries. Listen to me. Entries related to closure. Entries related to closure. Listen to me carefully. Number one, SLC account, we are going to have the closing balance. It is a raw material account. We'll be having the opening balance and closing balance. We'll tally the ledger and we'll arrive at the closing balance. Same thing with the work in progress and same thing with the finished goods account. First three ledger accounts has been closed by taking the closing balance. By taking the closing balance. Just I am telling you in which sequence we need to tally the ledgers. There are few questions in the study material. There are few questions in the study material. It will confuse you. It will confuse you. So what I mean to say, so you go in a sequence. First you pass all the entries. Once you pass the entries, then try to close one by one ledger. But close the ledgers in a sequence. First you close the raw material, then work in progress, then finished goods. Take the closing balance. Now it's time to close the wages control account. Actually speaking, wages control account will automatically tallied. I already told you. Payment entry, utilization entry. If you pass these two entries, it will get automatically tallied. You will not find any balance in the wages control account. Next, number 4. Number 5, production overheads. Number 6, administration overheads. Number 7, selling and distribution overhead. Please understand. There are three ways. To close this and to close these accounts. Listen to me carefully. If you find the opening balance in trial balance, then automatically take the closing balance. If you don't find the opening balance in the trial balance, then transfer to balance. Okay, balance transfer to P&L account. Balance transfer to P&L account. Because there are two ways of accounting. One is under absorption, over absorption will be carried forward to next period. Second one is under absorption, over absorption will be transferred to the P&L account. If you want to transfer it to P&L account, directly will transfer to P&L account. If you want to carry forward, we'll take the closing balance. So how to decide that? Will they mention in the question? Answer is no. In the question they won't mention. Sometimes they'll specify. That is the third adjustment. If they specify, according to the specification, we'll adjust the under or over absorption. If nothing has been specified, listen. If nothing has been specified, if they given the opening balance, take the closing balance. If they didn't give the opening balance, transfer to P&L account and tally the ledger. Third alternative is adjust as specified in question. If they specifically mention how to treat the under or over absorption, accordingly you treat the under or over absorption. These are the three ways to tally the production overhead, administration overhead, selling and distribution overhead. Now, number 8, abnormal loss. You tell me, the balance in abnormal loss will be transferred to which account? Automatically P&L account, costing P&L account. Okay, we'll be transferring it to costing P&L account. The balance in abnormal loss will be transferred to the costing P&L account. Are you understanding? Next, number 9, cost of sales. This cost of sales also will be taken to the costing P&L account to calculate the profit. Cost of sales will be transferred to the costing P&L account to calculate the profit or loss. At last, number 10, costing P&L account. The balance, normally profit and loss account, net profit and net loss will be taken to the balance sheet, but we don't have the balance sheet in the cost books, so we will be transferring it to the GLA account or CLC account. Because we don't have the balance sheet, I will transfer this to the GLA account or CLC account. Are you understand the concept or why we are transferring like this? Are you understanding? At last, number 11, GLA account will be tallied and will be taken debit balance or credit balance. Obviously, it will be credit balance. Normally, it will be credit balance. All of you clear about this? This is how we need to pass the journal entries under non-integrated system. I discussed all the 4 types of entries related to material, related to wages, related to overheads, and related to closing. Now I am going to do one of the tricky question. I will do one of the very, very tricky question from the study material in the practical question number 1. They given some missing information and they are asking to calculate the missing values. Let us do that. Listen to me. Look at this. The following incomplete accounts are furnished to you for the month ended 31st October 2022. they had given stores ledger control account opening balance. Why I am calling it as opening balance? Look at this. As on 31st March 2022, but here as on first October, sorry, as on 31st October 2022, but here they had given 1st October 2022. So this is the opening balance. This is the opening balance. This is also opening balance. This is also opening balance. Stores, work in progress, finished goods. All the three ledgers, they given the opening balance. Look at the factory overhead control account. They given total debits for October 2022, 45,000. Let us understand this. Please understand. When it comes to factory overhead, administration overhead, selling and distribution overhead, on the debit side, we'll be having total amount incurred. Why? What is the incurrence entry for factory overhead? Factory overhead account debit to CLC. Factory overhead account debit to CLC. So factory overhead ledger on debit side, it will be having incurrence. On credit side, it will be having absorption. When you are absorbing, what is the entry for factory overheads? What is the entry for factory overhead? Absorption. Absorb to work in progress. Work in progress account debit to factory overheads. Are you understanding? So debit means incurrence, credit means absorption. This difference is called as the under or over absorption. Are you understanding how to decide this? Look at here. If incurrence is more compared to absorption, that means under absorption. If incurrence is less, then it is called over absorption. Simply I can tell you, if incurrence is greater than absorption, under absorption. If incurrence is less than absorption, over absorption. All of you clear? Okay, next. They are asking factory overhead applied account, cost of goods sold account, creditors for purchases as on 1/10/2022, 30,000. This is also opening balance. These are the balances given. And look at the additional information. Let's go point wise. Listen to me carefully. Point number 1. The factory overheads are applied by using a budgeted rate based on direct labor hours. We already discussed the overheads. To absorb the overhead, we require certain base quantity. 6 base quantities we discussed. Out of 6 base quantities, one of the base quantities is labor hours. So here they are taking labor hours as the base to absorb the factory overheads. Look at this. The budget for overheads for 2022, in the year 2022, it is totally 6,75,000 is budget for the overheads, and budget of direct labor hours is 4,50,000. They given the budgeted information. We already discussed in the concept called the under or over absorption, or budgeted rate versus actual rate in the overheads. Which rate to be used when you are absorbing the overheads? Which rate to be used to absorb the overhead? Budgeted rate. We should not use the actual rate. Why? Because actual rate will get to know at the end of the period. So that we will be using budgeted rate. How to calculate budgeted rate? Budgeted overhead divided by budgeted base quantity. In this question, what is the base quantity? Labor hours. How much is the budgeted overhead? 6,75,000. How much is the labor hours? How many labor hours are there? 45,000. So budgeted rate equal to absorb the overheads. Budgeted rate equal to budgeted factory overheads divided by budgeted labor hours, which equals to 6,75,000 divided by 4,50,000, which equals to 1.5 per hour, 1.5 per labor hour. That is the budgeted rate to absorb the overheads. That is the point number 1. Look at the point number 2. The balance in the account of creditors for purchases on 31/10/2022. What they given in the table is opening balance. Now what they are giving is closing balance. Closing balance of the creditors is 15,000. And the payment made to creditors in October 2022 amount to 1,05,000. This is the total payment made to the creditors. What is the entry that we can pass? Creditors account debit to GLA account. Creditors account debit to GLA account. We are not going to use the word cash. In place of cash, we are going to use the dummy account, GLA account. Creditors to GLA. Next, point number 3. The finished goods inventory on 31st October. Nothing but closing balance of the finished goods. Are you understanding? Next. Cost of goods sold during the month. 1,95,000. What is the entry? What is the entry that we can pass for the cost of goods sold? And one more thing. At the time of discussing closing entries, I need to discuss one more point. What is the one more point means? We should know what is the entry. What is the entry that we can pass for the cost of goods sold and then sales. Cost of goods sold entry is cost of sales to finished good. Here you will get the doubt. Sir, why you are debiting cost of sales? Please understand. Please understand. In our cost sheet, we'll be getting cost of goods sold, add administration overhead general, add selling and distribution overheads. We'll be getting cost of sales. That means cost of sales is sum of number one, number two, number three. Sum of these three elements. That means cost of goods sold forming part of cost of sales. Cost of goods sold is forming part of cost of sales. Are you understanding? So cost of goods sold will be transferred to the cost of sales ledger. Cost of sales account debit 2. Finished goods. Why? When I'm selling the goods, finished goods are going out. Credit what goes out. I'm creating the finished good because of that reason. Have you understand the entry of cost of goods sold? Cost of sales to finished goods. That is the entry. Next, sales. What is the entry for sales? Means CLC account debit to costing P&L. CLC account debit to costing P&L. Let us understand the logic behind this. When you make a sales, what is the entry? Cash account debit. I'm speaking in financial books. In financial books, cash account debit to sales. This sales will be transferred to which account? Trading account. That sales will be transferred to the trading account. So entry is sales account debit to trading account. Sales account debit to trading account. Now what is going to happen? Sales will get cancelled. Final entry is cash to trading account. Cash to trading account. In place of cash, I am writing GLA account or CLC account. In place of trading account, I am writing costing P&L. This is the entry. Okay. Now look at this. Cost of goods sold. What is the entry? Cost of sales to finished goods account. Cost of sales to finished goods account. Okay. Next. Look at point number 5. On 31st October 2022, there was only one unfinished job. When I say unfinished job, can we call it as work in progress? It is not yet completed, so that we will be calling it as the work in progress. Okay. In the factory, the cost record shows the 3,000 rupees, 1,200 direct labor hours of direct labor cost and 6,000 of direct material cost has been charged. So what they mean to say, the uncompleted job or unfinished job has taken the material worth 6,000 rupees and consumed the labor worth 3,000 rupees. The 3,000 rupees has been accounted for how many hours? 1,200 hours. This information is opening some. It is giving information 3,000 and 1,200. It is indirectly giving the indication to calculate the labor rate, labor hour rate. So point number 1 we already calculated. Please understand, in point number 1 what we calculate is overhead cost per labor hour. Here what I am discussing is labor cost per labor hour. Are you understanding? So how much is the labor cost per labor hour? Labor cost per labor hour equal to 3,000 rupees for 1,200, which comes to 2.5 per labor hour. 2.5 per labor cost. Overhead cost is 1.5 per labor hour. 6,75,000 divided by 4,50,000. So 1.5 per labor overhead cost. Are you understanding? And one more thing. When it comes to point number 5, we need to know how to evaluate WAP. When it comes to WAP, closing stock, material 6,000, labor 3,000, will get prime cost. Add overheads. How to add overhead? For every 1 hour, 1.5 rupees. Point number 1. Point number 1. So 1,200 into 1.5, 1,800 together comes to 10,800. 10,800 is the closing stock value. 10,800 is the closing stock value of the work in progress. Are you understanding? Next, point number 8. A total of 28,200 direct labor hours were worked in October 2000. In October 2022, all factory workers earn same rate of pay. So a total of 28,200 labor hours have been worked in October 2022. Using this, we can calculate the total labor cost. 28,200 into labor rate is 2.5. 28,200 into 2.5 equals to 70,500. 70,500 is the total labor cost. Next, all actual factory overheads incurred in October 2022 has been posted. This is the transactions given. To answer all these things, my recommendation is that first you prepare 5 ledger accounts: stores, work in progress, finished goods, factory overheads, creditors. No need to prepare these 2 ledger accounts. Let us prepare these 5 ledger accounts. Shall we start? Now look at this. Look at here. Let me open the format. First I'll open stores ledger control account. First one is stores ledger control account, particulars amount, particulars amount. They given opening balance. I'll write two balance brought down debit balance 54,000. Two balance brought down 54,000. Next, I'm writing work in progress control account. Work in progress control account. Again, particulars amount, particulars amount. They given the opening balance. Two balance brought down 6,000. Next, finished goods control account, particulars amount, particulars amount. Two balance brought down 75,000. Factory overhead control account, particulars amount, particulars amount. Two balance brought down. It's not balance brought down. They give the total of debits. Total amount. I can write it like incurred. They give total debits. Nothing but total amount incurred. How much is the incurred? 45,000. Now we need to open one more ledger for the creditors. Look at this. I will be opening creditors ledger. Creditors account, particulars amount, particulars amount. I'll be writing they give the opening balance. Creditors, credit balance, by balance carried down. Creditors will have credit balance, by balance carried down. How much it comes to? 30,000. See, in study material, they had given a solution in different format. I'm not going to follow that format. Each and everything they calculate separately, not required. You just open the file ledgers, what they given, and you complete all the file ledgers, you'll get all the answers. Let me go step by step. Let me go step by step. First, let me write working notes. Let me go point wise. Working notes. Point number one. According to point number one, what we can calculate is budgeted rate. Let me write overhead absorption rate. Overhead absorption rate. Budgeted rate equal to budgeted fixed overhead divided by budgeted labor hours, which equals to 6,75,000 divided by 4,50,000, which equals to 1.5 per labor hour. So overhead absorption rate is 1.5 per labor hour. Are you following the discussion? Understanding? Okay. Next, number two, second point. According to second point, look at the second point. I already calculated. Second point, it indicates closing balance of creditors and payment to the creditors. Closing balance is 15,000 and payment to the creditors is 1,05,000. Closing balance of creditors, we are going to show it on the debit side. Opening balance, credit balance, closing balance is debit balance. I mean credit balance only, we are write it on debit side. To balance brought down, sorry, carried down, I'm sorry. To balance carried down 15,000 and they given total payments. Total payments made to the creditor 1,95,000. I'm sorry, 1,05,000. What is the entry for payment made to creditors? Creditors account debit to CLC account. So creditors account debit to CLC account. How much it is? 1,05,000. I am not going to prepare the CLC account. Not required. Not required to prepare the CLC account. Just I am preparing file ledger account, whichever they given in the question. Are you understanding? Next. I done with that. Roman number 3. Roman number 3 is about finished goods closing stock. Let me read the finished goods closing stock. By balance carried down. How much is the closing stock of finished goods? It comes to 66,000. Clear. Next. Fourth point. Point number 4. The cost of goods sold during the month 1,95,000. What is the entry for that? Cost of sales account debit to finished goods. Cost of sales to finished goods. Here we don't have the cost of sales account, but finished goods we have. By cost of sales. How much is the cost of sales? 1,95,000. Cost of sales is 1,95,000. Are you following the discussion? Next point is point number 5. Point number 5, it is about valuation of the work in progress. I already told you how to evaluate that. The closing stock comes to 10,800. Here it is. You can check with this. You can check. I hope you are able to see 10,800. Okay, that is the closing stock value. So work in progress by balance carried down 10,800. Next, we done with the work in progress. Next, point number 6. It is about total labor hours in October 2022 given under the common rate. What is the rate of labor? What is the labor cost rate? 2.5. Total labor hours is how many? 28,200. So 28,200 into 2.5 equals to 70,500 is the wages absorbed. Wages absorbed. So we'll write in the WAP account. See, please understand, work in progress is just like a process account. In work in progress, we need to have the raw material consumption, wages incurrence, overhead absorption. Because work in progress represents factory. In factory, we are going to incur the material, labor, overheads. Here, first they given the labor cost 70,500. I'll be writing to wages control account. To wages control account 70,500. Are you understanding? Direct wages is 70,500. Entry is normally WAP account debit to wages control account. WAP account debit to wages control account. So that I am writing to wages control account 70,500. Are you understanding? It is a direct wages. Which account to be debited? WAP account to wages control account. Clear? Next. Look at the point number 7. Point number 7 states that entire amount has been debited in the account. So these are the details given. Let me tally one by one. Can we tally stores ledger? Absolutely no. Work in progress. See, why stores ledger? Just we have the opening balance. Nothing else is available. Raw material account. What will be there in the raw material account? Opening balance will be there. Closing balance will be there. Purchase will be there. Issue will be there. Out of 4 elements, only one item is there. Opening balance. Remaining 3 is not available. Now look at the work in progress account, control account. In work in progress control account, we know the opening balance, closing balance, but we don't know how much is transferred to finished goods account and how much is the material cost, how much is the overheads. So we cannot tally the WAP control account. Next, finished goods control account. Can we tally the finished goods control account? Answer is yes, because we have the opening balance, we have the closing balance, and we have the goods sold. Now, using this information, we'll get to know how many units produced, production where? Work in progress. So here what we are going to get? To WAP account. Finished goods to WAP account. Once get complete, once get produced, we'll transfer it to finished goods account. So entry is finished goods account debit to WAP. So how much is the balance? This comes to 2,61,000. 2,61,000. 1,86,000. Work in progress is 1,86,000. So I'm writing here 2 Finished goods 1,86,000. Done with the finished goods. Next, factory overheads. Please understand, factory overhead total increment is 45,000. Total increment is 45,000, and it will be absorbed. The factory overheads will be absorbed to which account? Work in progress account. Absorption of factory overheads is work in progress. So I'll write by work in progress. By work in progress. What is the base? Labor hours. How many labor hours consumed by in the October 2022? How many labor hours consumed? Look at here. 20 point number 6. Point number 6. 28,200 labor hours consumed. So 28,200 labor hours into overhead absorption rate is 1.5, which comes to 28,200 into 1.5 equals to 42,300. 42,300. In WAP, right? Two factory overheads. Two factory overheads account 42,300. 42,300. Are you understanding? So by this, we'll get to know under our overabsorption. See, I told you, under our overabsorption, if the opening balance is given, we'll take the closing balance. If nothing has been specified, we'll transfer it to the costing P&L account. We can write by costing P&L. By costing P&L, how much is that? 2,700. Or we can take it as balancing figure. Nothing but simply I can tell you under our overabsorption is 2,700. So the ledger will get tally 45,000. 45,000. Next, creditors. When it comes to creditors, we know the opening balance, we know the closing balance, and we know how much payment is made. From this, we'll get to know how much is the purchase. What is the entry? SLC account debit to creditors. SLC account debit to creditors. So we'll write by SLC account. By SLC account. So how much it comes to? 1,20,000. 1,20,000. So here it comes to 90,000. So in SLC we'll write two creditors. In SLC we'll write two creditors. How much is that? 90,000. Two creditors, 90,000. Now look at this. We tallied the finished goods, we tallied the factory overheads, we tallied the creditors. Now what is the balance left out is WAP account. In WAP account, we know the opening balance, closing balance. We know the wages, we know the overheads, we know the number of units get completed, or value of the goods completed. What is missing? Raw material consumption. Raw material consumption is missing. Now let me calculate that. How to calculate this? 1,96,800. 1,96,800. Now 1,96,800 minus 6,000 minus 70,500 minus 42,300, which equals to 78,000. To SLC account. To SLC account 78,000. Here we write by WAP. By WAP 78,000 by balance carried on. We take the closing balance. 90,000 plus 54,000 plus 54,000 equals to 1,44,000 minus 78,000. 66,000. We get 1,44,000. 1,44,000. Now we can answer one by one. Now we can answer the requirements one by one. Look at this. Material purchased during the year. You look into the SLC. In SLC, you get the material purchase. What is the total material purchase? 90,000. The total material purchase is 90,000. Look at here. SLC to creditors. SLC to creditors 90,000. Clear. Next. Cost of goods completed. We can check with the WAP. Cost of goods completed 1,86,000. Transfer to the finished goods is 1,86,000. Next, overheads applied to production in October 2022. Applied, absorbed, recovered, accounted. So applied in the sense absorption. Look at the production overhead or factory overhead. How much is absorbed? Absorbed is 42,300. 42,300. Absorbed is 42,300. Okay. Balance of work in progress control account. We only calculated 10,800. Just now we deleted. Just now I deleted 10,800. Look at here. Or else you can check with the WIP closing stock. WIP closing stock 10,800. Okay. Next. Direct material consumed during the October 2022. We can check with the SLC account. How much is the value of raw material consumed? Consumed is 78,000. So we'll write the same thing here. 78,000. I'm presenting the solution slightly different from the study material. Okay. Next. Balance of stored ledger control account. How much is the balance? I'm sorry. How much is the balance of stored ledger control account? 66,000. Slightly confusing. Okay. 66,000. Balance of stored ledger control account is 66,000. Okay. Next. Over absorbed or under absorbed overheads. You can check with the factory overhead 2,700. So these are the answers for this question. Slightly complicated question and many times asked in the examination. As I told you, whatever the ledger records given in the question, try to tally the ledgers. If you tally the ledgers, automatically you can answer all the requirements. I'm bit fast. I know that it's a revision session, so that I'm a little bit fast. Are you understanding this concept? Whoever understand this and whoever like my classes, please like my classes as well as please share my classes. Please share with your friends and please subscribe to the channel and share to your friends who are in need of this subject, costing and FM. My support will be there with you in point of anything. Whatever doubts that you have, please comment in the comment section. In the last video, I have given you my number. You can check with my number and you can text me. Whatever doubts that you have. Utilize the service properly. Okay? Thank you. I'm winding up the class.